I'm really stuck in here. Better. Great. Do a clap and just get sat right. Hello.
Hi.
Topic for today is one that I think you'll really enjoy talking about. We have got a dog in the room. Going to caveat that at the beginning. The evolution of agencies, like from when you started working in them to now. So how they've changed, how business has changed, how culture has changed. A little bit of everything.
That's very broad.
I know.
The evolution. It's funny because Dan and I were having a conversation about the last 12 months, and a couple of the points that I touched on in there they're quite relevant. So.
Yeah, I think that's maybe where this came from. I'm thinking more, I think a lot of what I'd like to hear about is like the culture bit. So you know that like, I bet when you first started, it was that slightly crazy agency culture that sort of surrounded like all the agencies and leads, and everybody would finish the week, go out, it'd be a bit of a mad one.
Yeah, KPI was like how much beer you could drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's changed. I think that's just culturally in general. I'm not sure it's too applicable just to agencies.
But that didn't necessarily exist in every industry.
No, it didn't. I think the way that this is drawing on personal experience more than anything, but the way that I would probably describe agency environment 15 years ago would be like a coronary, whereas now I think it's a little bit like
Okay.
it's fast. It's still fast. Like the pace and the rate of innovation keeps it fast. But I think two things have happened. One is COVID has forced a focus on mental health, and also forced shit employers to take a step back and look at how they treat people. I think remote work has made people's value become realised on a personal level, which has meant that they've given themselves, they've backed themselves a little bit more, and forced shit employers to sort of pay attention.
Called them out a bit.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I said to Dan yesterday, which I think I've thought about since, is I think in where we are now and in the wake of AI, I can't have a conversation without talking about AI, can't I? What's happened is agencies have become confident in backing the value that they're bringing.
Mm-hmm.
So with that comes appropriate charging, not being pushed to the limit with what you're delivering in terms of it being wildly over servicing every client.
And wildly over committing your staff, which probably led to a lot of the culture that was the
exactly that. Yeah.
You get to a Friday and you go, whew, let's all like go wild because
like
everybody's so stressed.
It was like a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
It's like which is why I said coronary. It's like, and it was measured in how many beers you could have at the end of the week.
Oh, interesting. There's quite an integrated sort of environment in Leeds, wasn't there? Like amongst all the agencies. That doesn't really seem to exist as much anymore.
It's flipped a little bit. I think that it was more of like a rivalry.
But you like go on a Friday night and everybody'd like all go to the same pubs together, wouldn't they?
Sort of. But yeah, it was a little bit tricky at the time, remembering back.
Is that because of the beer?
Perhaps. It's a little bit, yeah. It's a little bit testosterone-y, I would say.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like negatively.
Oh.
So, whereas now, it's a lot more inclusive and it's a lot more supportive. Like the agency scene and the agency owners' scene is a lot more inclusive and a lot more supportive. I think it's not like can't talk to them, they're a competitor kind of thing, which is what it was.
Oh, so I always got the vibe it was much more like everybody would just kind of like all end up, particularly in certain areas where there does tend to be like heavily focused, like the buildings around it would be filled with agencies basically, and then everyone would all end up in like the same pubs on like Friday night, and it would just be like some big mad free for all with like all the local agencies and whatever else.
Yeah, there was probably an element of that, but I don't remember it like that at scale. It was more of a look who's over there kind of job.
Yeah.
It's not like that anymore.
Bit more of a side eye.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I remember it anyway.
It's weird because you, back however many years ago, you wouldn't really necessarily know those people without those interactions, would you? Whereas now, everybody's online. We know who everybody is at different agencies. We know everybody like in our networks through LinkedIn, through, I don't know, online networking, that sort of thing. I guess that was probably taken over a little bit and almost replaced. Maybe that was like more of a networking thing in some sense.
Yeah. In person was more frequent than it is now, I think, because of LinkedIn and because of social. I think LinkedIn has made it, it's almost streamlined it, hasn't it? You don't have to, you're not forced. I think there was a little bit of feeling like if you didn't go out on a Friday, or if you didn't go out whenever everybody else was going out, you'd miss out.
Yeah.
Whereas I think from a professional standpoint now, you don't feel that pressure as much because you can speak to people at the drop of a hat.
Mm-hmm.
There's almost like a weird necessity, wasn't it, back then?
Yeah.
Whereas it's not so much anymore.
What about like the structure of agencies then? Like from when, I know obviously Flaunt was kind of set up with a different structure in mind, intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
But across the industry in general, and agencies you know and agencies you've seen, how's that changed from when like you first started working in digital agencies?
That's a tricky one. I think everybody's got their own version of it. I think it's where you place the most importance. Obviously, the way that we set up was based on experience. But I think that was also done out of speed and bad experience, I think, mainly.
Mm-hmm. Speed for clients.
Yeah. But that's just one element. I think going back to the point I made about remote work and like digital specifically being a lot more accessible to everybody, it's almost standardized the fact that clients can communicate with whoever they want to communicate.
Yeah.
And it's an expectation now. Whereas I think the importance of comms has been made more prevalent by that. Both internal comms, client comms, and I think structurally it was almost like a byproduct, whereas now it's valuable enough to be a service in itself.
Comms. How could you possibly run an agency without comms?
Well, there's a difference between running an agency with bad comms and running an agency with good comms.
What would bad look like?
I think it comes down to a lack of training, lack of knowledge, and communicating the wrong thing.
So it's not necessarily, bad doesn't necessarily mean slow.
No.
Or lack of.
No, because you can be fast and feed bad information, which ultimately, from an operational standpoint, costs you more money.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the difference. Placing enough importance on it so that the skill set is at a level where misinformation isn't spread.
Yep.
That's the difference, I think. Whereas my experience years ago was largely, not all, but largely poor levels of technical knowledge leading to bad communication, leading to wasted time.
Oh yeah, I've definitely seen that. That kind of emphasis on getting back to somebody super quick as opposed to getting back to them in a thoughtful, considered and helpful way is more like you've not replied to them. They were emailed like 10 minutes ago. I'm like, I don't know the answer yet, but reply to them.
But I also now think that the amount of and depth of information around marketing, like the technical side of marketing as we do it now, that's immediately accessible, it's almost criminal for someone who is doing comms not to at least have a base level knowledge.
Oh yeah.
Whereas times gone by, that didn't exist. It was just like, I'm just going to do email and just manage meetings, and that's it. That's where it ends.
Yeah, I'm just going to feed some information that I might have picked up from somewhere else or heard here or
I'll
else.
just be agreeable.
Yeah.
And just say yes.
Yeah.
And just worry about it after, or let someone else worry
very,
about
very
it.
dangerous.
So that's the
path in
difference.
itself. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. What about how that's affected work then? Like, so how the structure in agencies have changed? How has that changed, not just in comms, but then how those workflows work for clients and what clients then expect in return?
It's a good question. I think drawing on the point that I made there about information being so readily available, I think it has increased a client's capability of sniffing out bullshit.
I think that's kind of what I was getting at as I asked that, you know. I was like, because I think clients are getting more knowledgeable.
Yeah. You've got to be good.
Yeah. Whatever position you're in a brand or a business or whatever else where you're working in marketing, once upon a time you could kind of float around and not really have that much and maybe just get agencies to do everything, feedback. It's not really the case anymore. People are way more knowledgeable. I
think good agencies clicked on quite a number of years ago to the fact that if you educate a client, or if a client is as knowledgeable as you are, whether that's you educating them to get them to that point or whether that's them just being on the shit and knowing what they're doing, it gets everybody better results.
Yep.
Whereas I've seen in the past a client in a position where they'd be decision maker but with a lack of technical knowledge, and that would be not taken advantage of.
Yeah, no, I've seen that I've seen that from the agency side.
Yeah.
I've seen that from the side of hiding things from them because they don't have the knowledge to call it out, or just basically fully bullshitting them because they don't know enough and they're reliant on the expert, which is the agency, to be telling them the truth. And if the agency's not forthcoming with that, it's quite easy to bullshit them, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that ties into values, doesn't it, as well? Like, there's a lot more around value alignment when it comes to who you're working with and what that means, and transparency is prevalent, and if you've got nothing to hide, then why are you not operating in a transparent way?
Which I think actually is another big shift in agencies, that it kind of links a little bit to the change in culture, but the way that they now most operate with fairly decent values.
I think that comes a little bit from what I was saying before, though, about agencies certainly recently being in a position where they feel comfortable that the value that they're delivering warrants what they charge.
Yep.
And with that comes, here's what we're doing, have a look if you want.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, we're hiding behind whatever to try and pull wool over your eyes so that we can keep charging you. It's like, look, we're fucking doing all this for you. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. These are the hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is what comes with it.
I think if anything, it's almost swung the other way. Like, I know we've had feedback that some clients are in disbelief at the level of depth that we have to go into. That's just how it is.
Mm.
You've got a good one.
I do. I wouldn't say good. We can judge. Okay. I don't even know why I'm asking you this, because I know what you're going to say. City or countryside?
Do you know what? I'm going to give you a more detailed answer on this. I would always default to countryside, but every so often I don't mind a bit of city.
Well, to be fair, like, yeah, my instinct would be countryside.
If I'm in a city for too long, I feel like I need to run away. But
I like the mix. So obviously I live in the countryside, work in the city. I really like that, because then you kind of get the best of both worlds.
Yep.
Okay, save money or spend it?
Context. Context is lacking there for me.
All right. Context. You, won the lottery. Not like a big, like, life-changing, but, like a few grand or something. What would you do? Would you save that, or would you be like, right, fuck it, I'm off?
I'd probably do a bit of both. I'm a bit funny. Like, I'm quite pragmatic with saving and planning, but I also, and I think it shifted from like when I were, I don't know, 18 and I had no money. I would class a material thing as a thing, whereas now I'm like, I'll spend more money on something that delivers like time or experience.
It's like a holiday
rather than a thing. And if there's not a requirement for that, then I'll save it.
Okay, nice.
That was a really long, grown-up answer, wasn't it? Sorry.
Networking in person or online?
Yeah, I don't even need to hear the rest of that. Face to face.
Okay.
Immediately.
Cooking at home or eating out?
Ooh, I love food.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to put that out there. So, it's tough. Probably eating out, but marginally, because I do like to cook and I get quite a lot of gratification from cooking for people. If I'm cooking for myself, less so.
Yeah, exactly the same.
But if I cook for other people, I like that.
Agree with that. Product demos or free trials?
What context again? Like platform? Are we talking SaaS or are we talking...
Whatever you want it to be. Anything recent that you can pull off.
So
like watching a video that takes you through like a full demo of how it works, or being given the tools for a week to do it yourself.
So the latter probably, but I would counter that by saying I trust myself to interpret and understand something based on my own research. So I generally wouldn't do either. Okay. I would just make the call.
You wouldn't even do a free trial?
No.
You'd go straight in and just buy it?
Probably.
What? I mean, I hate a free trial because these I'll sign up for like a 7-day free trial and I'll totally forget about it. Like over those 7 days.
Actually, I put things in a calendar if it's something that I'm on the fence about.
I'll forget to use it during those 7 days. And I'm like, oh God, do that trial. Then I'll get charged for it for like a full year. And then you have to go through that whole process. You're like, sorry, I actually meant to cancel this. Can I have the money back? And they always give you the money back. But honestly, every time.
I'm not that bad. To give you a bit of an idea, the last 4 cars I've bought without test driving. That gives you an idea of how my mind works, I guess.
Yeah, that's weird. Okay.
Same approach with most things.
Morning meetings or afternoon meetings?
I don't mind, really. I don't mind. I don't really have a preference.
No, I'm not sure I need to. Yeah. I like morning meetings. It just like gets out of the way and done. Yeah. Do you know what? It's different if I'm working from home or if I'm in the office. So if I'm working from home, in my head, if I've got a meeting in the afternoon, I feel like that's in my head all day because I'm like, I've got that meeting. Whereas I don't feel like that when I'm in the office because there's something different about it. So if I'm working from home, I'd rather do my meetings in the morning and then spend the afternoon like sat just getting stuff done. Whereas in the office, I don't think I've got any preference.
Yeah, I don't really have a preference either way.
All right, meetings whenever.
Yeah, I think the more important question is this meeting necessary? And if it's not, then should it be happening in the first place?
Well, yeah, fair enough.
The time of which doesn't really matter. If there's a meeting in, then it must be important enough for it to be in there.
True. Okay, last one. On the job learning or structured training? Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Built a career.
Don't even know why I'm asking.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's coming back. Apprenticeships.
Yeah.
Resurgence, on the job training. It's definitely all going that way.